Today's episode is brought to you by Achieve Unite, a global leader in leadership development, business acceleration, and trusted partnerships. Achieve Unite combines deep expertise, data analytics, and AI to help companies accelerate revenue, control costs, elevate talent, and build trust. They're more than advisors. They deliver results with their proven three-part approach: talent development, ecosystem strategy, and profitable growth programs. Whether you're strengthening alliances, enhancing internal systems, or optimizing your partner ecosystem, Achieve Unite is the partner you need for success. Hey there, and welcome back to the Delighted Customers podcast. As we step into this new year, I've got some exciting updates to share with you. First, you might have noticed something different. The podcast has a new look. We've got an awesome blue theme and a redesigned cover, all to reflect the energy and passion we pour into each episode. But that's not all. I am thrilled to announce that the Delighted Customers podcast now has a title sponsor. We partnered with Achieve Unite, a company that's all about building trusted partnerships, both within and between organizations. Why? Because partnerships aren't just business buzzwords. They're game changers for creating outstanding customer experiences. I want to take a quick moment to say a thank you to you, yes, you, for tuning in, sharing the show, and helping us grow. This community means the world to me, and your support has opened up opportunities like this amazing sponsorship. Now back to Achieve Unite. Today's episode is extra special because their CEO, Theresa Caragol, joins me to dive into something that really doesn't get talked about enough, and that is the connection between strategic partnerships and customer experience. In a world that's getting smaller yet more complex, the number of partnerships is growing fast. But here's the thing. The quality of how those partnerships work together is what makes or breaks success. Theresa and I unpack the context of partnership, some common roadblocks, and practical tips for organizations and their teams to collaborate effectively and deliver for their customers. So grab your coffee or your tea, settle in, and let's jump right in. Welcome to the Delighted Customers podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business. It's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. Well, I am so excited to introduce my guest on the show, Theresa Caragol. Theresa and I have formed a partnership because we have so much in common. And I want to tell you how excited I am to share her story with you because I think it will shed some light and hopefully, as we always try to do, some learnings for the audience as well. I know I learned a lot. So, Theresa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here today.
Yay. And Theresa is a title sponsor now of, and her company, of the Delighted Customers podcast. So we're going to talk a little bit about the intersection of trust, AI, partnership, and business outcomes. And what fascinated me so much about your company and your story is you have tapped into something that I have not heard anyone exactly put their thumb on. And that is, we think about, we often talk about matrixed organizations and the complexity and the evolving layers of organizations. But there's another thing that has to do with partnerships. And as in a world that we live in today, you can't really exist without some intricacies, some integrations that exist, whether you really think about it that way or not. I mean, I'm not just talking about middleware. I'm talking about the partnerships you have with everyone in the supply chain between you and the end customer. And so if you would, just shed some light on the white space that you saw as an opportunity and what gets you so pumped up about it.
What excites me so much is that I grew up in this partnering, alliance, go-to-market channel space and spent my entire career in the tech industry as an executive running these partnering divisions. And I can remember 15 years ago saying, partnering needs to be at the CEO level. Partnering needs to be across every part of the organization. It needs to become a way of life. Well, fast forward 15 years, well, probably more like 25 years later, we published a book and has become a bestseller in 25 categories about how to do partnering right and how to make it successful right first time, whether that's partnering with your customers, whether that's partnering cross-functionally inside of your organization, whether that's partnering with your distribution channels, with your suppliers, with your strategic dealers or alliances. That's what we're talking about here.
Excellent. So before we get into the magic behind the curtain and what you've created as a approach to helping companies, and you had mentioned to me in our earlier conversation that you like to focus on pretty large companies, large enterprise organizations, but you will work with other organizations as well. What is the big deal? Why should the C-suite really care so much about partnerships?
Partnering in the B2B space, bar none, 1,000%, it's the way of the future. And any CEO that is not thinking about it this way is missing a big trick for success.
Yeah. Yeah, and can you, they're always talking about, well, I've got to make, an investment in my time, my people, and why is investing in the concept of partnership so important?
Well, if you think about customer lifetime value, right? You, Mark, do all of these podcasts. You've talked about customer lifetime value all day long.
We do.
Everybody understands customer lifetime value, right? The lifetime value of a customer if we have them for 10 years. Think about partner lifetime value. By the way, we own the trademark on partner lifetime value and the concept of what if we treat our partners, I have a solution provider, I have a dealer, I have a network of partners, it's customer lifetime value on steroids, right? And we make that experience with the partner a force multiplier for them and we propel their businesses forward. It's a way of life. It's a very different way of thinking. It takes a longer time sometimes to be successful, but in the long run, the force multiplier effect is magnificent and it's exponential.
As you're talking, in a lot of ways, it kind of bucks the status quo thinking or conventional thinking in that we're taught to compete, and outperform. And what you're talking about is really the tent is getting larger. Yes. And you're having people that are connected to your organization that you want to lift up as well, right?
Yes. It's this, I really believe in the flywheel effect, and we talk about that in the book, that as you create, every organization needs to have their partner strategy, they need to have their community strategy. And we talk about the community, and you have to be very deliberate about what your ecosystem is, because your own ecosystem is made up of a set of communities, whether that's, associations that you participate in, whether it's events that you attend on an annual basis, whether it's memberships that you belong to, right? And by the way, personally and professionally, we need to make sure that our organizations have this set of communities that we're participating. Maybe we're owning a community, right? Think about Salesforce, think about AWS reInvent. I mean, some of the biggest communities in the world now are owned by some of these big tech companies.
So, Theresa, I want to talk about some of the misconceptions that companies have around this topic. And one of the things that I want to ask you about is, do leaders take it for granted that these partnerships are just happening and optimized?
Yes, 100%.
And do you have a way of helping them understand how there might be a gap?
Yeah. I mean, 75% of partnerships never reach their potential. And partnerships are hard, right? It is a muscle that has to get built in people's DNA. We call individual trust and organization trust, right? So in people's DNA and in organizations' DNA, partnering has to become a way of life. It has to become a muscle that gets built so that you get really good at developing these. I no longer believe partnering can be done, a sales leader or a supply leader. It really has to permeate through the organization.
And you've developed a diagnostic tool that companies can use, right, to assess. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, we actually have 2 diagnostic tools, and we talk about both of them in the book. As you know, there's 3 components, three elements to the system of partnering success. So the trusted business relationships piece is part 1 of the book, and there is a diagnostic tool, the only one in the world today that is scientifically based, that measures business trust and that codifies profiles of people and how they build trust, and then helps them develop their muscles in the ways that they maybe are not always strong. And up until now, trust was sort of in this esoteric thing. Well, we now have a way to say, hey, Mark might build trust differently than Theresa builds trust. So how do I bridge? It's like a language. It's like body language, right? It's another language that you get in your repertoire, because if individuals can accelerate trust, what happens? Productivity goes up, innovation goes up, cross-functional collaboration goes up, revenue goes up. So this notion of accelerating business relationships and kind of eliminating that competitive thing that has been inside of organizations and across organizations is really important. So business relationships and PQI, Partnering Quotient Index, is the name of that assessment. Think EQ, think IQ, this is your PQ, and it's your ability to build trust. So that's the assessment for the individuals. We also have a business acceleration set of assessments. We have in the book uniters and deflators. What are partnership uniters? What are partnering deflators? So you can really get a sense in your organization, are you doing partnering well? Do you have the muscles built in your company to do it well? Then, do you create an experience for your partners? And we have a value measurement index that actually assesses the science of whether you're creating, much like Net Promoter Score for customers, Net Promoter Score for the partners. Are you creating a scientific, phenomenal experience for the partners? And we have that diagnostic tool as well on the business acceleration side.
Got it. So there are 2 diagnostic tools. So one of the things we talked about, and I just like to pull out gems here, is that companies, leaders can often overlook or take for granted the fact that the importance of partnerships to the whole ecosystem of what they end up delivering to their end user customer. And you have written a book. And by the way, the name of the book is?
The name of the book is Partnering Success, the Force Multiplier to Achieve Exponential Growth.
And so in the book, you reference these 2 diagnostics, the PQI and the other business accelerators, which then gives what seems like a soft, touchy-feely topic a lot of objectivity, because now you've got results, a report out from the assessment.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
And it will, I assume, identify gaps for the company to say, hey, we should. Now, does your company provide guidance on helping them prioritize what they should work on first?
1,000%. In both the individual, we help individuals prioritize where their skill sets are to increase partnering muscles. And we help organizations prioritize what they need to invest in that's going to give them the biggest return. Because we all know you can't do everything at the same time.
I just think it's fascinating. I've been in the CX world for, I don't know, a couple of decades, and it never really occurred to me to think about the impact of partnerships, especially inside the organization, yes, but oh my gosh, it's becoming a more and more complex world where we need to rely on. And, we only need to look back a few years in the heart of COVID when there were supply chain issues to really, and that's just nuts and bolts kind of stuff where it was dramatically affecting people's business.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think this partnering thing strategic alliances are making a resurgence. We're going to see these deep strategic alliances become much more important over the course of the next decade. With this advent of AI, every company has to be a tech company. You can't go it alone. It is going, and we have the global phenomenon. So this partnering thing CEOs have to get good at it. CROs have to get good at it.
Can you share sort of a story of a customer that had a problem that you helped them with? Whether they found it or you found it, and then you used the tool, and tell us about that.
And there's a few examples. There's many examples of that throughout the entire book. Are examples of customers who've had problems or opportunities where we've really made impact. But let's do a couple. One is 2 companies came together and were experiencing a lot of conflict in the integration. Teams were fighting. They were not synergizing together. And we came in, they did the entire PQI, trust building, team building experience for their teams. And they said that their teams were 6 months ahead of everybody else in the organization because they went through these kinds of experiences together early and were able to innovate faster and integrate themselves faster. So that's one. At the organization level, we have helped a number of companies. I'm very proud of the story of Atlassian and the story of a couple of other companies who have built unbelievable partner networks and have incredible partner experiences because of some of the diagnostic tools we've helped them with, because of some of the things that we've done to build these partner programs that are world-class and easy to do business with and make this seamless experience for the customer fantastic. But if that company had gone it alone, that customer wouldn't have had these amazing experiences. And so those are just some things I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Could you give us would you mind me giving us some context on that? So I'm just trying to wrap my head around the mechanisms that you put, the solutions that you might put in place, and how, there's some quality controls built into how the organizations partner together.
Well, if you think about part of the magic of what Achieve Unite does is developing organizations' partner programs, their partner strategy, their partner program. Because the only way to get partnerships to work is to create, why do you have a partner program in the first place? It creates trust at scale. And if you're going to create trust at scale, get people to work with you, you have to have these seamless partner programs. And that's one of our superpowers, is understanding an organization, what do they need to do to create their own superpower partner. Think about it on steroids, right? How do I have this partnership initiative that's super successful the first time?
Got it. So it could, and part of that solution could be anything from the people aspect of it, the technology aspect of it. Am I right on that?
Strategy. It could be the company strategy and the program aspect of it. It could be the data analytics and where the company should be focusing in order to get the biggest return. For me, which I value very deeply, is the people side, because if you're going to get partnering successful, the people have to work together well. And so one of our superpowers is helping people become really good at partnering. And how do you put joint North Stars together, and how do you do joint business planning, and how do you make that work really well, and teaching the muscles to the people to do that.
Theresa, what would be a symptom that I may be a little bit under the weather as a company, that may be a signal for me to say, I may have a partnering issue?
Yeah. Well, in the book, there's a whole thing of partnering deflators. And so it's all of these symptoms that you are not maximizing your opportunity to partner. But let's talk about a few of them. One might be, we've got some partnerships. They're very transactional. Whenever you hear, their partnerships are very transactional, it probably means you've got a big opportunity there and you're not leveraging it strategically. I also often hear, our sellers are competing with our partners, and our partners don't bring any value. They just do fulfillment. If you hear those kinds of things going, you probably have a big opportunity to accelerate, to turn the accelerator on. Because all you're doing in that phenomenon is creating internal conflict, which is preventing you from even maximizing what you could be doing externally. Another one I hear is we think we have an opportunity to work with partners to bring us into deals. Okay. Now, what are you going to do for them? How does that work? So you probably do have an opportunity, but it goes much broader than that. Because if all it is referrals, by the way, that's a good partnership motion, referrals, influencing. But where you see that, you more than likely have much more opportunity for integrated services, white labeling, much deeper levels of alliances.
Why don't companies do this on their own?
I think they do. I think we're getting more calls outside of the tech industry and other industries because people are starting to realize how important this is. But it's hard. Partnering is not easy. It goes back to how you started the conversation about competition. And, we've all been bred in this competitive world, and you have to shift we call it the partnering growth mindset, right? You've got to believe if you partner together, you make the pie bigger. You make your opportunities more, as opposed to we're competing with one another. And that's a mindset shift. There's a lot of sellers that don't have that mindset, right? There's a lot of individuals in the organization that sometimes don't have that mindset. And so we have to shift the mindsets too.
Yeah. So there's some great tips there. I heard, some of the things that you want to be aware of in terms of, hey, maybe I could use some help in this area is, if I'm hearing that our partnerships are more transactional than relationship based, if we have what I used to call channel conflict, right, where we've got sellers competing against each other in the organization, and I guess also if you've got departments within the organization that are highly frictioned.
Very good example.
Yeah. In terms of strategy recommendations for how companies, obviously they're gonna want to read your book. They're going to want to take the assessment, one of the assessment or the other, and call you. But what other practical steps can companies take to do a better job of partnering?
Well, we have an AI partnering success hub, which will be even deeper we are completing an acquisition right now that will have an unbelievable capacity of knowledge in partnering. I would tell you the most in the entire world. And they can purchase that for their teams, integrate it into their own systems, and have a tool for the people to understand how they build trust and a tool for the organization to maximize its partner building muscles.
Excellent. Is there anything else that I'm thinking about that you want to share with the audience relative to partnering that I missed?
I would just say that I would like people to think about it in a methodology and a structure and a system. The ad hoc, we call it random acts of partnering. The random acts of partnering won't get you the results you want. And so it needs to be really done. The degree to which organizations and people get the strategy right is the degree to which they're successful 2 years later.
Excellent. And I want to ask, because we in the CX space get pounded about this ROI of CX all the time. What is the ROI of partnering, and are there any concrete ways that companies can go either to the C-suite or the C-suite asking themselves, tell me what's the ROI of this? Yeah.
There are a number of different metrics. Revenue, of course, right? Revenue, customer loyalty. One of the things we've seen in the SaaS world is, land, adopt, expand, renew. We were very focused on land and renew, but when you partner well, the adopt and the expansion, that happens inside of customers because these partners are out on your behalf with their own services, their own ecosystems, their own, think about Zoom, right? Think about what Zoom has done and the ecosystem they've created about around their application. Microsoft, these partners have built huge businesses on this technology with services, with intellectual property, with all of these capabilities that make the customer experience so much better. And and they stay in that customer for a very long time, right? And so that's the partner lifetime value ripple effect that you get when you build these ecosystems correctly.
Excellent. Great tips, great advice. If I were someone listening today and I was interested, how might I connect or get started?
Yeah, well, visit achieveunite.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow me. Follow Achieve Unite on LinkedIn. Subscribe to our newsletters. We do not spam. We just educate. That's really, really important to me, is to be an educator and a thought leader. We've published the 2025 partnering trends in the world. So please check those out. And yeah, or you can call me or text me or email me anyway.
Yeah. So would you like offer a free consult?
We do. I will offer free consults 100%. I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So last question I'm going to ask, and I ask all my guests, is what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh my goodness. Well, one, I just did a LinkedIn post on the advice we would give to our 20-year-old selves, four of us. And so let's put that we'll put that link in there, and it's all about the things we would do differently and we would tell ourselves. But my number one thing would be invest in relationships for the long run. Invest in the business relationships for the long term. Somebody from high school becomes, your business partner 30 years later.
Great stuff. Great advice. And it fits right into your business operation as well.
Absolutely.
Theresa, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I really enjoyed it today.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.